Clippers owner Steve Ballmer, currently under federal investigation for fraud to power Leonard's no-show job and skirt NBA rules.
Kawhi Leonard got from Aspiration a $28 million no-show job.
That's the Kawhi Leonard I know, doing nothing and getting paid for it.
In NBA history, LeBron will also renew his career-long rivalry with the Boston Celtics in Cleveland, opponent throughout his career. And
one of the NBA's quietest superstars might be at the center of the biggest salary cap scandal since Joe Smith nearly destroyed the Minnesota Timberwolves 25 years ago. What if I told you that this scandal involves a fraudulent tree planting company, a billionaire owner, and $28 million that allegedly never should have existed? Yeah, we need to talk about Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers. Before we get to the content, if you happen to be a huge fan of this YouTube channel, we are currently looking for short-form content editors, meaning video editors that specialize in making TikToks, YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels. If this is something that you're really good at, send me your best piece of content to my email, TheFlightMike@gmail.com, and you can end up working with me on my next video. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. NFL season's around the corner and Dak Prescott just needs one passing yard in order for his square to hit. Guys, you can sign up with my promo code microphone to get a free $50 in lineups when you play $5 or more on Prize Picks. Once you get that, use $25 on this lineup here to make $131. I've already been making picks so I can snipe the best lines early on. And in this case, I'm pairing Dak Prescott to get one passing yard, which is a free square, with Kyren Williams getting a touchdown at any point and Justin Jefferson scoring a touchdown versus the Chicago Bears. On top of that, if you want more plays, I've created an incredible Discord community of experts in the WAP link in the description down below. And thank you, Prize Picks, for today's sponsor. On September 3rd, 2025, investigative journalist Pablo Torre dropped what might be the most explosive NBA investigation of the decade. When Pablo Torre spends 7 months digging into something, you know he's found something real. According to Torre's investigation, he found documents for a signed $28 million endorsement deal for a no-show job with a tree planting company that doesn't exist. And get this tree planting company was funded by Los Angeles Clippers owner Steve Ballmer.
I mean, he's got the dream. It's within my beliefs to be paid $28 million and do absolutely fuck all as well.
And it involves one of the 6 richest people in the world, a cardinal sin of sports, an unsolved mystery as well that I've been investigating for 7 months.
So let me repeat that. This is a $28 million no-show job. But before we dive into how this could potentially end with the Los Angeles Clippers losing draft picks, paying massive fines, or even having Kawhi Leonard's contract voided, we need to understand why a team would even risk something like this, because make no mistake, if these allegations are true, the Clippers didn't just bend the rules, they completely shattered them. The salary cap exists for a reason, and if a team circumvents the salary cap, then that's straight up cheating every single team in the entire NBA, which I guess you could say is even funnier because the Los Angeles Clippers didn't have much success during the time period that this occurred, so they pretty much broke the rules and didn't have anything to show for it. So let's back up to 2019 when Kawhi Leonard was a free agent. Remember, every team in the league wanted him. He was fresh off of a championship with the Toronto Raptors, and Kawhi was the most coveted player on the market. The Lakers wanted him to team up with LeBron and AD. The Raptors wanted him to run it back, but Kawhi chose the Clippers, signing a 3-year, $104 million deal. Now, here's where it gets interesting. That contract, it was actually below his maximum value. He would re-sign with the team on a 4-year, $176 million extension in 2021, and then signed a 3-year, $149 million extension with the team in 2024. Each time, Kawhi Leonard would leave some money on the table. And in a league where players squeeze every dollar they can get, that was definitely a little interesting. And originally, people thought that Kawhi Leonard was just taking less money so the Los Angeles Clippers could try to build a competitive team around him. I mean, after all, they still had Paul George that they needed to go out and get. They would eventually trade for James Harden during this period of time. But what if Kawhi wasn't actually leaving money on the table? What if he was getting paid, but just not through his NBA contract? So enter Aspiration, a company that promised to plant trees and sell carbon credits to offset pollution. Sounds noble, right? Well, according to Tory's investigation, Leonard signed the endorsement deal with KL2 Aspire LLC, a subsidiary of Aspiration, a company that promised to offset carbon emissions through tree planting, but was later exposed as part of a $248 million fraud.
NBA executives were suspicious of how Steve Ballmer's Clippers landed Kawhi Leonard. This celebrity-endorsed, multi-billion-dollar, allegedly fraudulent tree brokerage named Aspiration filed for bankruptcy. August 21st, 2025. Orange County man and Aspiration Partners co-founder agrees to plead guilty to $248 million scheme to defraud investors and lenders. That's 2 counts of wire fraud.
Yeah, you heard that right. The company's co-founder, Joseph Sandberg, has agreed to plead guilty to 2 counts of wire fraud and faces a maximum penalty of 20 years in prison per count. This wasn't just some shady business, this was allegedly a massive criminal enterprise. But here's where it gets really wild. Tory attempted to find any evidence that Leonard ever marketed for or endorsed the company, but came up empty. He had no Instagram posts, no commercials, no appearances, nothing.
What David's looking at with his glasses on is a bankruptcy filing. On that list of creditors is an LLC that Aspiration owes $7 million. And that LLC's name?
KL2 Aspire LLC.
And what does it list there under manager or member name?
Kawhi Leonard.
What I started doing was scour the internet for any mentions of Aspiration by Kawhi Leonard endorsing Aspiration. And this was hard to find.
Leonardo DiCaprio endorsed this company, Robert Downey Jr. endorsed this company, but Kawhi Leonard, who allegedly got paid more than all of them, radio silence. And the contract itself, it had some interesting clauses. A clause in one of the contract documents between Aspiration and KL2 Aspire LLC stated that Leonard could decline to proceed with any action desired by the company, essentially giving Leonard the ability to get paid without doing anything. Even more suspicious, the company had the right to terminate the deal if Leonard was no longer employed by the Clippers. So wait, hold on. Why would a tree planting company care if Kawhi Leonard played for the Los Angeles Clippers or not? Unless this wasn't really about planting trees. Here's what Pablo Torre uncovered from his sources.
We went through a litany of, really top tier name contracts. And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard, a $28 million organic marketing sponsorship deal with Kawhi. And that if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap.
A former Aspiration employee told Tory we went through a litany of really top tier name contracts. And then, oh, by the way, we also have a marketing deal with Kawhi Leonard. And that if I had any questions about it, essentially don't, because it was to circumvent the salary cap. Let me say that again. This was done to circumvent the salary cap. This anonymous employee who worked in Aspiration's finance department went even further. They said Leonard's deal with Aspiration completely eclipsed every other celebrity endorsement deal combined. Think about that for a second. The company had Leonardo DiCaprio, Orlando Bloom, and other A-list celebrities as endorsers, but Kawhi Leonard's deal, for which he did absolutely nothing, was more than all of them combined. And here's the kicker: Steve Ballmer, the owner of the Los Angeles Clippers, had invested $50 million of his own money into Aspiration, the same company that then turned around and paid Kawhi Leonard $28 million for absolutely nothing. Now, the Clippers have come out swinging against these allegations. In a statement, they said neither Mr. Ballmer nor the Clippers circumvented the salary cap or engaged in any misconduct related to Aspiration. Any contrary assertion is provably false. But here's the thing: the NBA has been down this road before, and the last time it happened, it nearly destroyed a franchise. Let me take you back to 1999. The Minnesota Timberwolves had just signed Joe Smith to a 1-year deal worth $1.75 million for the #1 overall pick from just 4 years earlier. This was insanely cheap and very shady because Joe Smith had turned down an $80 million extension with the Warriors before he had been traded to the 76ers. So why would he sign for peanuts in Minnesota? Well, as Joe Smith later revealed, there was an under-the-table deal done with my agent and with the organization. It was a partnership, 2 agents that were partners, and things happened with the partnership where they were splitting and going their separate ways, and they had to go to court. It came out in court from one of the agents that the deal was done under the table. The Timberwolves had promised Smith that after 3 cheap 1-year contracts, they'd use his bird rights to give him a massive 7-year, $86 million deal that would go over over the salary cap. When NBA Commissioner David Stern found out, he didn't just slap them on the wrist. The NBA stripped the Minnesota Timberwolves of their first-round draft picks for the next 5 years and fined the team $3.5 million. They voided all of Smith's contracts. Owner Glenn Taylor and general manager Kevin McHale were suspended for a year. 5 first-round picks were gone just like that. And that was 25 years ago, when the NBA was less strict about these things. Today, under current rules, an offending team can have draft picks stripped away. Free agent signings can be voided. A team official deemed responsible can be fined up to $5 million. But it gets worse. In 2019, the NBA's Board of Governors approved measures doubling the maximum fine for tampering from $5 million to $10 million. And Adam Silver, well, he's made it clear that he takes this stuff seriously. Silver has said the league is willing to suspend executives, take away draft picks, and void contracts for teams that do not comply with anti-tampering rules. He even has the power to seize people's phones and communication devices during investigations. Under the current CBA, the league can impose a fine of up to $7.5 million on any team found to have committed such violations. They can void any player contract. They can impose a fine of up to $350,000 on any player and prohibit any future contract between such player and such team. Think about what this could mean for the Clippers. They just opened the Intuit Dome, a $2 billion arena. They've got James Harden making $46 million this year. They went out and signed Brook Lopez and Bradley Beal. They traded Norman Powell for John Collins. They're trying to compete for a championship with an aging roster, but they're also targeting the 2027 offseason so they could go star hunting in one of the most loaded free agent classes in recent NBA history. Think about how this changes everything. They might lose multiple first-round picks, which are very valuable, especially if you're trying to pursue a star or engage in sign-in trades, or regular trades for that matter. They might have to pay $1 million in fines, and they might even have Kawhi Leonard's contract voided. But wait, it gets even crazier. Remember how I mentioned that Aspiration was involved in a massive fraud? Well, the Clippers actually partnered with Aspiration in 2021 to build Intuit Dome as the most sustainable arena in the world. So not only was Ballmer investing his personal money into the company, but the Clippers as an organization were publicly partnering with them. And the fraud itself, it's almost too wild to believe. According to court documents, Sandberg fabricated a letter from Aspiration's audit committee that falsely stated that Aspiration had $250 million in available cash and equivalents at a time that Aspiration had less than $1 million in available cash. He was literally making up fake money to convince investors that the company was successful. Sandberg also personally recruited companies and individuals to sign letters of intent with Aspiration, in which they committed to pay tens of thousands of dollars per month for tree planting services. Sandberg used legal entities under his control to conceal that these payments came from Sandberg rather than from the customers. In other words, he was paying himself to make it look like the company had customers. And who was the biggest customer of all? Kawhi Leonard's company, KL2 Aspire LLC, which still shows up in bankruptcy documents as being owed $7 million.